there's a lot of controversy over this Little Mermaid. I would assume it's a teaser trailer because nothing happens in it except for like a little song at the end. If you don't know, D23 was this week or last week. That's basically like it's a big conference for like Disney, because you know they own like half of the properties in Hollywood. They show off a couple of stuff, a couple logos, announce who's gonna be playing this character, what and what. And you know Disney's been on this live action remake run, which is, I mean, genius from like a business standpoint. We already own the properties to the stories. Shoot it in live action. They're gonna come see it again. Another $1 billion in our pocket. From a creative standpoint, I'm not a big fan of it. I think animation isn't respected in Hollywood and just like in general as its own art form. I think sometimes having certain movies be made into live action just doesn't make sense. Like Lion King, for example. I don't think Lion King works or is nearly as visually interesting as it would be if it was animated, just for the simple fact you can do way more with animation, way more character expressions. You're trying to make these cats look realistic, but realistically cats don't even show that much emotion. But again, I'm not that big of a fan of it. I'm make original stories to me, and you know, a lot of times people will say, hey, we made this original story and nobody went out to support it. And my argument to that would be, a lot of the original stories being made out are super safe, and they're also just not good, or they're average at best. And you know, not to say that like back in the day, because a lot of the stories that we would consider original were probably just adapted from children's tales or like old like foreign stories that we just never heard of and we thought were original. Even still, that Matt Damon clip that went viral was very interesting. He was talking about how now that CDs, like no one's going to the like Best Buy to go buy a movie on Blu-ray. That changed how movies are put out, because as a producer on a movie, you have to kind of like pitch the movie to a studio to justify them giving you all this money to make it. Now if you want to tell a story that's not like a superhero film or part of an already established franchise with the built-in fan base, you really have to like justify it. So having like a rom-com or I don't know, like an out of the box unorthodox movie that's not usually normal isn't going to get greenlit, because one, I mean, I think I'm part of it. Sometimes I see a movie like, oh, that's cool, and I'm not going to the movie theater to go see that, and you're not getting that second backhand boost of money once people go and buy it on Blu-ray, because people don't do that anymore due to streaming. I think that's a very interesting conversation. You can also see that like in the music industry a lot now, because again, people aren't buying albums anymore. Why would I buy an album when I could just stream it? I can stream all the albums I want for like $9.99 a month. That doesn't make any sense. A lot of times you'll see labels signing safer artists, not as good artists, and it feels clout chasey at times, some of the artists that they sign. So I find it interesting, that parallel between like cinema and music. Back to the Little Mermaid trailer, I was scrolling through like YouTube and I was looking at videos. I'm a big like review guy, reaction guy. I like to watch people's like opinions from like certain backgrounds, different backgrounds on how they interpreted a movie. And I saw one that was like woke Disney ruining another like movie or whatever. And I saw on Twitter that like Little Mermaid had like 20 million or like 1 million dislikes compared to like 300,000 likes. I did not know that the Little Mermaid was this like coveted of a story for like white people or just like media in general. And I go on to watch the video and he's talking about he was talking about how Disney's trying to be super woke and it's ruining the story, it's ruining it integrity of the film. And I watched the trailer for the movie and it's literally like shots of the ocean, a bunch of fish going around, and then like Haley singing at the end of it. I don't understand how that's ruining the plot of the movie at all, other than the fact that obviously she's black. Little Mermaid is a notoriously white. I don't understand it. I think Haley is very talented, her and her sister. I actually really like their album a lot. Obviously she can sing. I think she like plays instruments, she produces the music too. She's extremely talented. I don't know how her acting history, I know she's on Grownish. I'm not like a fan of that show, so I don't watch it. I know one thing, she can definitely sing. It sounded better than the original song. I went to look at the original and it sounded like she sang that better than the original. But the fact that people are just disliking it solely because Ariel was traditionally white, and they're hiding it behind, oh, it's ruining the plot. And really it's just that, I mean, she's black. And on top of the fact, I don't even think Disney is being as woke as people seem. It's funny because like if you're like on the far right, you think Disney is being extremely woke, and if you're on the far left, a lot of people feel like it's like tokenism or whatever, or they're just trying to say, hey, look, we put somebody in here, like leave us alone or whatever. And I would find it interesting because I want to bet that, I mean, Haley, and it's no like disrespect to her, but like she's she's light enough to where you could have a white dad and a black mom and it would like make sense, like nobody's going to bat an eye. I highly doubt that, and maybe I'm wrong, like maybe I'm not looking at the casting. I highly doubt the entire kingdom, like Under the Sea, is going to be fully black. I would expect like her dad to be black or her mom to be white, or like vice versa. Like I think there's a reason that certain like actors of lighter skin tones still get roles to this day. Like I don't think Disney will put like a Coco Jones in there, even though she can probably sing just as well as Haley. She has probably the same acting history as Haley. She would probably fit the role just as good. I don't think they would do that, because like you can't pull that off of having a white dad, a white dad and a black mom, because obviously she's a darker skin tone. That wouldn't like genetically make sense. So I find that interesting. This kind of makes me want to go see the movie now, just to support. But again, I'm not that big of a fan of Disney live action remakes. I think they're pointless. And from the reviews, because I haven't seen it to be fair to the remakes, but from the reviews I've said, they rather said it was cool. Like obviously it wasn't better than the original, or it was outright like bad and pointless, or they followed the story from the cartoon beat by beat, but it looks visually less interesting, because obviously there's certain stories that animation, even 20-30 years ago, that live action just still can't do, rather because it's too expensive, or like they just don't have the time to do it. The BET Hip Hop Awards announced their nominees for the categories on Twitter or the website, but it ended up making the rounds. There was one particular category that people were like what the hell is going on here? And that category would be lyricist of the year. I'm gonna read off the names. Lyricist of the year. You had Baby King, Jack Harlow, Drake, J. Cole, Jay-Z, Benny the Butcher, and Kendrick Lamar. Yeah, I don't know whose decision it is to come up with the artist, but for a lyricist of the year award, one is very inconsistent. I don't know what the qualifications are for this, because half of the artists, and we'll get to them, they don't have that much music out in the last year to be nominated for lyricist of the year award. And then also certain artists just aren't lyricists. Baby King is not a lyricist. I would say Jack Harlow is not a lyricist, and if he is, he's not a very good one. And I like all these artists. Like that's what they all say. It was one of my favorite albums that came out that year. 21C Delta, probably one of my most played songs when it came out that year. But calling Jack Harlow lyricist of the year in any year is kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. And also like Jay-Z has 2 verses out in the last year, and they're not even on his own song. He got Neck and Wrist, and he has God Dead. And let's be real, the real verse that got him nominated was God Dead, because I like Neck and Wrist, but like Neck and Wrist, it was alright. It was a cool song. So to say that Jay-Z is lyricist of the year, if he wins it, which would be crazy, from one verse is insane. Even if we're being real, was not that crazy of a verse. It got hyped up because Jay-Z has a big fan base, but I mean he ain't say nothing too crazy. Like if we're just going off features, like Andre 3000's verse almost brought me to tears on how personal it was and how much I could kind of relate to it. I guess that's just music is obviously subjective or objective, one of the two. But if we're just nominating people off one verse, why isn't Andre 3000 Life of the Party on here? With J. Cole, he has a mixtape like with his label Dreamville, but none of the verses on there were that crazy for him to be nominated for a verse of the year. Obviously he had that track on Bia's song, but come on, like he was having fun with that. That wasn't a crazy verse like that. He had that song on Benny's album. I like that song, but that's all it takes to be nominated for verse of the year. I feel like there's a lot of artists that would have benefited from being nominated and winning it more than the names that were mentioned. The only 2 names that made sense were Kendrick Lamar and Benny the Butcher. I mean, it would be nice. I'm kind of rooting for Benny the Butcher to win this. I think it would be cool for him to win it. I don't know if Griselda has won any awards before, but it would be nice for Benny the Butcher to win it. I mean, they could have nominated Denzel Curry. They could have nominated JID, the person that signed to J. Cole. They could have signed Pusha T, the person that was on the song with Jay-Z. They could have nominated Lil Wayne. I mean, if we doing verses, Lil Wayne's been like the best feature artist for like the last like half a decade now. He's been getting on people's stuff and like taking over like rappers. He's been getting on tracks with like Conway and like Wash and Conway. He's been on tracks with like Benny the Butcher and his Wash, Benny the Butcher, and Big Sean on tracks. I've seen him do it before. He got on the song with West Side Gun. Wash, West Side Gun. Like, why isn't Lil Wayne here if we just doing it based off that? And also, why is Baby King, like, I know Baby King's not, doesn't make sense obviously because he's not a lyricist, but Melodic Blue would have been nominated last year if I'm not mistaken. If the BET Hip Hop Awards is always in October, I don't understand what Baby King did unless you really think his interlude on Kendrick's album was just that good. Because other than that, what has Baby King done in 2022? He hasn't done much to deserve to be on this list. I mean, you could have nominated Nas. I really enjoyed him and Hit Boy last year in December, which would have qualified for this time frame. But even then, you got Lupe Fiasco dropped the album. I mean, why isn't he nominated for lyricist of the year? West Side Boogie could be an artist that could genuinely benefit from being nominated and winning this award. Not to say that should be the only qualification, but he deserves it more than the majority of the names on this list. I don't even like the guy, but like The Game would make more sense on the Lyricist of the Year award than Baby Keem. Like, come on, man. I honestly, I don't think Baby Keem and Jack Harlow would win the award. I think like the world will turn upside down. Not really. I don't think the BET Hip Hop Awards are that important, but it's just weird because the Grammys obviously isn't going to nominate half the names I just named because it's the Grammys. And you would think the BET Hip Hop Awards would be more tapped into like lyricists and actual rappers and not have to like do the Grammys game where they just nominating the most popular artists. I feel like you should just say that because most people already don't take the Grammys that seriously because they do stuff like this. But it kind of sucks. Like those type of rappers will kind of just never get that recognition just because they don't have as popular as a fan base. And, you can make the argument they would have that popular of a fan base, if, people like BET would put them in the spotlight. You know what I'm saying? But I don't think this is too much of a big deal, to be honest with you. I haven't watched an award show in I haven't watched an award show in a minute. Partially just because I kind of, when I got older, I kind of realized, okay, they're nominating people who have no business being nominated. And also, I mean, at the end of the day, some stuff is just only as important as you make it to be. So, while it would be nice to see some of these artists get the recognition, obviously, because like I don't think West Side Boogie's ever going to win like a Billboard award. Like that's just never going to happen for West Side Boogie or like a Denzel Curry. It would be nice for a BET, a Black Entertainment Network, and you make the argument it's not owned by black people, but even still, I think I would just think they would be more tapped in to the culture than nominating Baby Keem and Jack Harlow for a Lyricist of the Year award.